Hello viewers, welcome to Mythology. This video is in continuation with the animal tissues. So we finally arrive at the nervous tissue. Nervous tissue is specialized to conduct impulses and convey informations largely located in the brain and the spinal cord. The nervous tissue comprises of the main kinds of cells called the neuron. Neurons are an electrically excitable cell that fires electrical signals called action potentials. There are two types of cells in the nervous tissue or the neural tissue. Firstly, the neurons which transmit the signals, and then the neuroglia that provides the physical support to the neural tissue. It also controls the tissue fluids around the neurons, help defend the neurons from the invading organism and the xenobiotics. Neurons are very different from the familiar cells. There is huge amount of branching where the cytoplasmic extensions project out, allowing the neuron to respond to a stimuli and transmit the electrical impulses forward, similar to the stimulation of the muscular contractions. On taking a closer look at the neuron, it has a head-like part which is called the cyton or the cell body. The cell body contains a nucleus, nucleolus, surrounded by perikaryon with nissl granules and many other organelles, but the centriole is absent in a neuron. Projecting from the body extend many dendrites that increases the surface area to receive a stimulus. A single axon starting from an axon hillock lengthens out. When the axon is much longer, we call it a nerve fiber. At the end of the axon, there are hundreds to thousands of branchings interfacing with other neurons or muscles, forming neuromuscular junctions. Axon is the conducting part which generates electrical signals for communication, starting from the axon hillock, moving up to the axon terminal, which ends in a knob-like structure that secretes a neurotransmitter. A good example of the neurotransmitter is acetylcholine in humans. These neurotransmitters are released which either excite or inhibit the nearby neurons. Now we come to the classification of neurons. Firstly, based on the presence or absence of the medullary sheath. There may be a protection provided by an insulating sheath of myelin around the axon, which increases the speed of the transmitting impulses. When this is present, they are called medullated or myelinated nerve fibers. These medullated or myelinated nerve fibers are particularly present in the peripheral nervous system. The individual units of myelin sheath are called the Schwann cells. These wrap around several times, producing numerous layers of neurilemma for protection of the nerve fibers. These membranes lack several channel proteins which make them powerful electrical insulators. There are tiny gaps between the Schwann cells where fibers are exposed or naked, and this area is called the node of Ranvier. Sometimes axon collaterals branch out from these gaps, whereas the neurons without the myelin sheath are called non-myelinated or non-medullated nerve fibers. Structurally, neurons can also be classified in the following manner: either unipolar, or bipolar or multipolar neurons. Coming to the unipolar neuron, they have a single axon that divides into proximal and distal branches, which is still considered as a single axon, one going to the central nervous system while the other is the peripheral process acting and moving towards the sensory receptor. Next are the bipolar neurons. They have two processes, one axon and one dendritic structure extending from opposite sides of the cyton. Bipolar neurons are little uncommon, but specific parts of the eye and nose contain bipolar neurons. The third type are the multipolar neurons, which has three or more processes. One of it is an axon and the rest are dendrites. Majority of the neurons are of multipolar types. Depending on their function, the neurons can again be classified into three different types. The sensory or the afferent neurons, which carry impulses from the sense organs to the central nervous system. These are typically unipolar neurons. The next are the motor or the efferent neurons. They start carrying impulses from the central nervous system to a muscle or gland. They are always multipolar in nature. Then it is the interneuron that sits between the above two types, shuttling signals around the system, usually confined to the central nervous system. They are mostly multipolar in nature. Regardless of the type, each neuron comprises of these basic features: a receptive region for receiving the stimulus, which is basically the dendrite, then a trigger zone, which is the initiator of the conducting region for transmitting signals, which leads toward the last region called the secretory region. The secretory region releases a neurotransmitter to make the impulse jump to the next neuron. Finally, coming to the function of the neural tissue. Every emotion that you feel, every response that you give, every stimulus or change that you can understand in your body is a functional part of the nervous or the neural tissue. So I'm giving a very basic idea to understand the functional activity of the neural tissues. We know that opposite charges attract each other. So wherever there are opposite charges that exist near one another, work must be done to separate them. When a cell keeps them separated, then the existing potential energy, due to the difference in the concentration of the specific ions like sodium and potassium ions, which are present inside and outside the plasma membrane, builds up a potential difference, and that is how it allows the signals to sweep through the axon, which is taken by the dendrites, gets transmitted through the axon, reaches a neurotransmitter at the end, and then jumps over to the next neuron. Thank you for watching. I hope you like this video. If you have any queries, do not forget to write it in the comment box. I will attend to it shortly. Share it with your friends and do not forget to subscribe to my channel, please.